Many years ago, Woodrow Wilson said, "What good is a political party unless it's serving a great national purpose? And what good is a private college or university unless it's serving a great national purpose?"
I've given some thought about my childhood growing up. You know, one thing about prison, it gives you an opportunity, if you take it, an opportunity to do a lot of reflecting upon your past.
You know, scared the crap on me about, well, you know, you my son, and, you know, I'll pay it back, and, you know, we come up with a contract.
But he does this before.
Yeah.
This is the Ambassador Hotel. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
They have an emergency. They want the police to the kitchen right away.
What kind of an emergency?
I don't know, honey. They hung up. I don't know what
We'll
happened.
find out. We don't send out
I
without...
beg your pardon?
We have to know what we're sending on.
That's all he said and hung up. It's some kind of an emergency. I don't know what happened. You know, we have the Kennedys and everybody here tonight.
You have what?
Mr. Kennedy here.
Big deal.
Hiya, fellas. This is G.I. Jill with the G.I. Jive. Yep, the old jukebox that hangs around G.I. Jive is set to operate again. And this session, I'm going to live up to my name of G.I. Jill by doing the show by the numbers. I can hear the groaning from all parts of the world. Does it make you think of good old basic training? And look, you certain PSC from APO 322, that invitation to dinner at your mom's sounds all right. And now we'd better get back to the jukebox and Glenn Miller playing Rhapsody in Blue for Jack, Abe, Blitz, Red, Roy, and Walter at APO 959.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period would be more impressive to mankind.
The black and white picture seemed almost ghost-like, but it clearly showed the two men cavorting about in the 1/6 gravity of the moon.
Be careful when you tune your radios in to pay no attention to the pirate signals that sometimes take over the laser communications through outer space. It's high technology, and sometimes, of course, there are problems with it.
The American Space Shuttle Challenger exploded about a minute after it was launched yesterday, and all 7 crew are assumed to have died. President Reagan said the United States was in mourning, but the space program would continue.
And Mr. Krupp showed some footage of a program that is on every evening in the Soviet Union for children called Good Night Little Ones. And after he showed it, he said, I guess the closest thing we have to this in the United States is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I don't believe that Sirhan's bullets ever hit my father.
Okay.
And neither did the coroner, Thomas Noguchi, who's probably the most famous coroner in American history, who did an autopsy that is known as the perfect autopsy. He actually flew in the chief coroners of all the every branch of the military service to sit in the surgery theater to watch what he did because he knew what had happened in Dallas. And he didn't want to repeat.
Hello. Allow me to introduce you to a few of the open-minded, free-thinking faithful, my friends and yours. Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Everglades. Welcome to the Conspiracy Squad.
Hi, I'm Nigel Kent, and welcome to the Conspiracy Squad. Tonight, I am joined by the imitable Jasmine Star, and we are going to be talking about weather control technology. Can you believe it? Because not so long ago, I didn't believe in it at all. Jasmine, what's going on? What's new in your life?
Well, not too much. Just getting things ready for my kiddos to come back and start their school year. And
it is back to school season, isn't it? And hurricane season.
It is hurricane season. So, and you guys saw a little bit of action down there.
Yeah, I mean, things get a little soggy when you live in a swamp and then the tropical storm comes through and dumps, an entire summer's worth of rain within 2 days on you. It gets even swampier than normal. But alas, Hurricane Debbie has come and gone, and I believe Debbie has moved on up to somewhere around maybe Jacksonville or Georgia by now and isn't doing a whole lot of damage, so we're very grateful for that. There is a technology that apparently allows humans to make hurricanes less strong, Jasmine Star. And I know you know a thing or two about this technology, but before we deep dive, I wanted to let everybody know that we have a poll of the week. Woohoo! And in this poll of the week, we're asking which deep dive subject should we discuss on the finale of our second season, which comes up in just 6 weeks. Can you believe that we're already halfway through our second season? For those of you paying attention, you may notice that our compatriots are not on the show today. Each of them is away on special assignment, but I am told that they may show up in the live chat. So if you're looking for Gabby McAllister or Cat Marks, look no further than the live chat. And if they don't show up, you can certainly harass them on their Twitter and their Instagram. See previous shows for links to those. But the poll says, which deep dive subject should we discuss in our second season? The choices have been narrowed down to Sasquatch, electric vehicles and globalism, theories about the origins of language, and Michael Jackson theories. And right now, there seems to be a very, very dead heat. With 22 votes, Sasquatch, electric vehicles are tied, and then origins of language and Michael Jackson are coming in second place tied. I really can't wait. All of these are awesome. Jazz knows how I feel about MJ. We could do a 3-hour episode about that. Jazz, what would be your 3-hour episode? Like, what's the thing that really, really gets you going?
In those topics?
Or any of them.
Any topic. Oh, geez. I wouldn't even know where to start. I would have to say I could go on and on about 9/11.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have previously done a 5-parter in the Trouble in Paradise days.
Yep, we have done multiple segments in Trouble in Paradise. But with those, I have some interesting stuff that I uncovered recently that has something to do with MJ, and I'm trying to get.
You're going to tease me with that?
I am, and you're just going to have to wait and see what the poll turns out. But
I'll be texting you all night. Tell me what it is. Tell me.
Well, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, so good luck with that.
Just to prevent unnecessary MJ texts. Well, we got another electric vehicles and globalism vote as we speak. Thank you to everybody that's on the live chat, rumble.com/conspiracy squad, with audio replays available the next morning on all the podcast platforms. You can find the show on X/Twitter at Join the C Squad, and we're also now on YouTube, while they let us, at Official Conspiracy Squad. But don't say it too loud. We don't necessarily want them to notice, because we can't really afford another channel strike over there on YouTube, and they love their censorship. Yes, they do. I see Cat Marks is on the live chat. Welcome, Cat. Good to see you. PF3, Dirty Delta, and Green Beanie 10th. Hey, Green Beanie, how you doing? Good to see you back. Let's get started. Jazz, what do you think about the stock market today? What we know it took a big dump, but What do you think's going on out there in the world?
Well, I mean, I think that this is all intentional. It's obviously by design. It's not anything that I feel is unexpected. Um, it's if you follow the stuff long enough, I think a lot of us were starting to get, that gut instinct that we needed to do something. Those of us that are preppers have been, preparing for something like this. And, I'll just leave it at I made some financial transactions myself within the last couple months that I questioned at the time. And now I am very happy with the decision that I made.
Yep. Well, so the stock market came back 3% down today between the Dow and the NASDAQ. It was pretty much an across-the-board sell-off. What they're not mentioning in the mainstream news is that this also apparently happened with cryptocurrency as well, although there were some winners and losers mixed in. One of the interesting winners of the day today was Lockheed Martin, which after hours is up 1.6%. At the close, they were down, but this weird thing happened with Lockheed Martin right at 8 a.m. Their stock shot up significantly, double-digit gains, about an hour and a half before the market opened. And that seemed to be reflective of speculation that things were about to go sideways in the stock market. There was also a huge crash on that same stock right before open, and then by the time the opening bell rang, 1 minute after open, the stock was well back above its 3-month high, as you can see on this chart, well above its 6-month high, and you can see that it's on track to beat its past 12 months. Lockheed Martin, of course, is known for making things that go boom.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I like things that go boom. I'm not sure I like the Lockheed Martin version of things that go boom. So,
well, I mean, there was a lot of movement, that's going on. Obviously, what's going on with Iran and Israel, it doesn't surprise me one bit that we saw this little bump here with Lockheed Martin whatsoever.
Do you think that this global market crash, I guess crash is maybe a little bit of an extreme word, but this global market dip is a coordinated effort? Do you think it was intentional, or do you think it was just the world reacting to the fact that our currency has no value and people are finally waking up to that?
I think it was intentional, personally. Like I said, I think a lot of us, our intuition has been telling us for a while that there were going to be changes in the market. But when you see the price of, but like, not just like our currency, but gold and silver, like they had a significant drop today too. And that's when that should raise a little bit of an eyebrow. The crypto, people were bottoming out with that before this happened. But when you start to see gold and silver also taking these deep dives at the same time at the market as well.
I was surprised that gold didn't have a bigger jump. I mean, gold was up very, very slightly today. It was down midday. It's now up about 1/3%, and I was expecting that it would go up at least to account for what the market was doing by a couple of percent. And you're right, it absolutely did not. Neither did silver.
No, and in fact, whenever things started out in the day, it took a deep dive, both of them. So that's where I don't know. I don't trust any of them. I was reading. One of my followers sent me a link that the Fed was possibly holding like some kind of a meeting, emergency meeting. I know several people that had been locked out of their, and I'm sure you saw the post as well. Schwab, people couldn't get into their accounts on Schwab, Fidelity, all the big players and everything like that. People
and we're only 1 week removed from the whole CrowdStrike fiasco too. So I mean, this is just one thing after the next in this industry.
I think this is completely different than what happened to CrowdStrike. This is, they're trying to protect their asses and and screwing our assets in the meantime.
So one of the most important assets that we have as willing participants and beneficiaries of this planet is the environment. And the weather is what gives us the ability to produce food and to a great extent enjoy life. The weather allows us to spend sunny days with our families and enjoy great health. We know what the health benefits of sunshine are. We know what the health benefits and spiritual benefits of grounding and touching the ground are. But there seems to be, and for many, many years, it seems that there has been an obsession with weather-related technology that grants control, first and foremost, to those who run the patent office. And that is our subject for tonight. Hard segue. But I wanted to share with you a picture of something known as the Weather Dominator. Now, this is a plastic toy that was available when, Jazz, when you and I were kids. I don't know if you were into this kind of stuff. I was. But this Cobra mass device command weapon includes Weather Dominator. And there was a made-for-TV movie featuring G.I. Joe and his archenemy Cobra that was all about Cobra's desire to dominate the weather by employing a defense contractor that was owned by a Scottish gentleman who was good friends with Cobra Commander by the name of Destro. And, of course, the Weather Dominator was used to wreak havoc and kill a bunch of Joes and make all kinds of trouble. So that was fantasy back in 1985. But as you've been researching all week, these weather-related patents for technology control go back 100 years, perhaps. What was the earliest time frame that you were able to find in your research about weather control over the last week or so?
The majority of the patents, and when people really started diving into it, started around 1940 in the documented patents that I was able to look up. However, the people that are involved in those patents and weather manipulation, they're part of the big families. So, and we know how far back that they go. So it's really hard to say. And you have to look at Nikola Tesla. That's I didn't put that really in there in part of the research for tonight's stuff, but Tesla was one that was also involved in doing these kind of studies. So,
well, Tesla, I think, of course, his research had a lot to do with the weather because he was greatly concerned with getting energy out of the atmosphere using induction. But another effect that Tesla has is that if you use his name as a tag on a YouTube video, YouTube removes you from the algorithm. So,
well, that's what if we bought a Tesla vehicle though? Like, are they going to remove you from the algorithm because you bought a Tesla?
It's interesting. They probably aren't. They're probably going to promote you because they love all that stuff. But Nikola was his first name, right? Now there is a competing hydrogen-powered vehicle brand out there in California called Nikola. So everybody check that out. I want to do an episode about that at some point in the future. A hydrogen-powered automotive technology company called Nikola. I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek, if they're taking a jab at the Tesla Motor Corporation or what the deal is, but pretty intriguing technology that they have. Not as intriguing, though, as the Weather Dominator. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of information that I found that kind of paints the history of weather manipulation. And, initially I didn't believe any of this stuff. I thought this was the worst of the worst conspiracy theories, and we're not going back very far here. We're going back to 20 2018 or so. And if you were to ask me, I would say, well, that's nonsense. Humans aren't powerful enough to control the weather. And this is kind of a catch-22 for climate denialism, because if I'm going to confess to you that, yes, humans are powerful enough to control the weather in certain cases, then it follows that humans could possibly have an effect on the atmosphere and with long-term implications for the environment. Now,
they absolutely do.
Yeah, but perhaps not the way it's being presented to everybody as a...
when they present it as a way that, because there are too many cows that are farting and, that's causing too much methane in the environment.
Jazz?
Yes.
Have you ever been around a cow when it farted?
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
I'm like...
I have not, that I know of.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't sound like fun, though.
My grandfather was actually called Doc, and he inseminated cows, so there was a lot of stuff.
Wait.
You never knew this?
Jazz, your grandfather inseminated cows? You want to rephrase that?
He was known as Doc, and farmers would call him, and he would come in, and he had, artificial insemination.
Okay.
Artificial insemination. Good Lord. Don't talk about my grandfather like that. God rest his soul.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that nobody says anything disparaging on his name after watching this show, because we need to be clear. It was artificial insemination. No. And apparently he was a scientist of sorts then.
He was just good at his job.
Here's the thing about weather manipulation. And if everybody go pull up Wikipedia's official page about weather control right now, and you will find precisely one reference to a patent. On Wikipedia, the world source of authoritative information about things going on. And you will find one reference to a patent. And the patent that it mentions is a benevolent, good-natured invention designed to reduce the strength of hurricanes. That sounds like a pretty great idea, right?
Sure.
I mean, who doesn't want a weaker hurricane? I, for one, was grateful that Debbie was only a Category 1 for about 5 minutes. But what Wikipedia leaves out is the innumerable other patents, which are perhaps less noble and well-intentioned. Like in 2008, patent 283386, a method of removing aerosols from the atmosphere. Quote, the present invention relates to generally the methods of removing aerosols or particulates such as suspension of polluted aerosols from the atmosphere. Stick with me for a second. More particularly, the invention relates to methods for electrifying the atmosphere with ion emissions by corona effect to remove unwanted aerosols or particulates by deposing those aerosols to the ground. So I am no physicist, but what that means to me is that the patent is for removing heavy metals from the atmosphere and putting it into the earth. Now keep in mind, it was other scientists who wanted to put it in the ground or put it in the sky in the first place, these heavy metals, for the purpose of weather modification. And an example of that is 2010 patent 142112, which was a New York patent for managing atmospheric humidity. And this patent acknowledges the existing methods, which include seeding particles delivered to clouds by airborne carriers such as aircrafts or rockets. Small particles of silver iodide are introduced from the aircrafts. Silver iodide particles are ice nuclei, since they act like ice crystals by depositing vapor onto themselves. Basically, they want to make the clouds produce rain by introducing silver iodide in very, very tiny crystals. And what happens is unimpinged silver iodide plummeting to the earth. So suddenly, remember that first patent that we started out with, they realized that they were polluting the hell out of the atmosphere by cloud seeding, and that the vast majority of the silver iodide was not coming down with the rain. and contributing to what they call the greenhouse effect, which of course they blamed on aerosols back in the 80s. Now the truth has come full circle that most of those aerosols were actually injected into the atmosphere by people who were experimenting with it. Well, they blamed hairspray. So those are the first two I came up with, Jazz. What did you get on your end when you were researching weather control?
I mean, I've got a lot of stuff here, but just bouncing off of what you said, there was a study that was done. It's actually by MIT, where scientists did advanced cloud seeding capabilities using nanotechnology. So this is like, and this woman, let me find her name here, Dr. Linda Zhao. She's a professor of civil and environmental engineering, and for MIT, and they did an interview with her where she was discussing how, like, the traditional methods that they were using with the silver iodide, how that really wasn't enough. So they were using like advanced technology, nanotechnology. So they have incorporated like the silver iodide. We also know from other patents there's aluminum and barium, and yes, there are patents for chemtrails. As much as people would like to deny those.
Well, I mean, the chemtrails aren't they the main delivery mechanism? Yeah.
Yep. So Zhao says the conventional cloud seeding materials include mostly hygroscopic salt mixture, which can change from salt crystals, blah, blah, blah. So she's trying to make it sound very benign.
Seems like they all do that.
Right. But whenever you start to get like a little bit deeper and everything, and she starts to talk about like immediately after the seeding is released, the electronic equipment, which are electronic optical cameras, will take many, many photos to record the image while the seeding materials are falling. Then we can later analyze at what stage the droplets formed and what number and size of droplets. And so they're using like this nanotechnology, and they have a UAE on this technology as well. So
what is it?
A UAE. That's
which
similar
means?
to.
Is that like a UAP, like a UFO?
No, like almost like an emergency like the emergency use.
Oh, yeah. So that totally reminds me of.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a tangent about the Patent and Trademark Office and how the contract, when you apply for a patent, gives the government unlimited use of your invention for 20 years. Most people think that when you apply for a patent, that the benefit of dealing with the patent office is that your invention is being protected from people who would steal it from you, like other entrepreneurs and inventors and so on, other competitors. When in reality, what the Patent and Trademark Office is actually doing is making sure that they get first dibs on anything great that you come up with. And in some cases, exclusive dibs, and like you said, emergency use, like an emergency use authorization, right?
Right.
Even the Russian patent office does the exact same thing, but they're a little more transparent about it. You have to go to the DISA website in order to find the admission of this as a public declaration with the United States Patent Office. But I think they're all doing the same. They're all running the same dirty scam as governments around the world. If somebody has something that does something novel, they want first dibs, and they figure 20 years of exclusivity is plenty for them to do whatever they're going to do with it.
No, I would absolutely agree with that. We've got, you can easily find this stuff, U.S. Patent 631 5213 Bravo 1, and that's method of modifying weather. And that's where they start to talk about the cloud seeding with the polymers.
Oh, yeah. What could possibly go wrong with putting microplastics into the atmosphere, Jazz?
Right. A super absorbent polymer is a resin capable of absorbing water up to several thousand times its own weight. But then when you get down and you start to really look at when you get into like the detailed description of the invention on these, that's where you can start to really get into like the meat and potatoes of a lot of them. The present invention relates to a method for artificially modifying weather by solidifying portions of a cloud in a storm, such as a hurricane, by introducing polymers into the cloud. This method utilizes supra-absorbent aqueous polyacrylamides. Excuse me.
Yeah, it sounds like you're reading the back of an Oreo package or something like.
Pretty much. I mean, a lot of this stuff is, they say it's a biodegradable polymer, but a lot of this stuff, whenever you start to look into like the specific chemical and what like repetitive exposure to these chemicals can do to the body.
It's long been proven too that plastic is very not biodegradable. I mean, it's relatively biodegradable because it's made of earth and naturally occurring compounds and petroleum and so forth. But it takes forever to recycle plastic, and plastic is notoriously difficult to recycle more than one time.
Right.
And it also lasts a very, very long time. Even if you burn it, the chemicals that are produced during burning are quite toxic. So,
right.
Putting it in the atmosphere sounds like a terrible idea to me.
Right. And so, like, the example that they give in this patent is a hurricane is seeded with approximately 30,000 pounds of super-absorbent aqueous-based polymer by transporting a plane flying through the leading edge of the storm. Within 20 seconds, the polymer will obtain over 70%, or nearly 300 times its weight. So they drop this polymer in the air, and in the middle of a hurricane, essentially, they're going to fly in, they're going to drop this polymer. It's going to absorb this, supposedly. And then the winds of the storm will continue to disperse the materials, causing a form of internal fluctuation, disrupting the feeding nature of the storm. Now, that sounds like it would be a good thing. It's like, okay, well, we can drop this in there and it's going to change or like de-intensify a storm. But, they have other methods that they're using to actually increase and cause weather to become actually worse.
Yes, they like ionization from radio, super high-powered radios, which kind of takes us to the whole subject of HAARP. And even the name of the HAARP experiment, though largely secret to this day, High Altitude Auroral Research Project, is a way of using targeted high-frequency radio and very, very relatively high-power radio to ionize portions of the atmosphere and create clouds that are capable of doing things that other clouds would not ordinarily be capable of doing. In other words, starting storms. Although some of this is speculation, to be sure. HAARP, I believe, isn't that the one that's in Alaska, right?
Well, HAARP is centered in Alaska, but there's actually like transponders all over the world. It's not just limited to Alaska. They strategically have like these transponders, and I mean, if you pull up a HAARP map, you're gonna see that you have these throughout the globe. It's not just localized too.
Let's. This is probably a good opportunity to take a quick poll in the chat to find out basically what everybody's age is. because there does seem to be a cutoff point where strange cloud formations such as grids and chemtrail grids and things like that, there was a certain sort of year where all of this stuff started showing up. And a lot of people that were born after 1980 or so aren't aware that there aren't any photographs of this phenomena that predate roughly the early and mid 90s. So if you go back a little earlier than that, in the mid 80s and before, into the record of newspaper photographs and various famous photographs of the sky that are out there historically, you can't actually find pictures of chemtrails that resemble some of the ones that we've shown on the screen, including this very bizarre one that I have up there on the asset share right now. If you saw a cloud like that, Jazz, what would be your first reaction? I think I would probably get out my phone and take a picture of it. I think that's what this guy did.
Oh, I would think that they are they're actually directing the weather to that specific area. I believe that we saw that happen with Hurricane Ian. There were several chemtrails down around the Marco Island area. And I believe we had 2 reports that we had received of a Tic Tac that had also, but that's a little bit of a different segue on that one.
There were Tic Tac sightings after that storm too.
Yeah.
Before and after. I know firsthand of a Tic Tac experiencer that was traveling north on Collier Boulevard,
right,
between Marco and I-75, that had a Tic Tac experience. But I can't remember if it was before or after that storm. It was right around the time of that storm, though.
Right. No, it definitely is.
But these kinds of images here, like you see this sort of rainbow crystalline wave cloud. This looks like a warped VHS image from a TV broadcast or something. This stuff didn't exist at all when I was a kid. You never, ever saw that washed out sunlight where it looked like there was a haze. And, this isn't me being nostalgic. This is actual fact. I mean, good luck trying to find a picture of this stuff that is earlier than about 1994 or so. And the other thing about these clouds is they're apparently not visible to atmospheric imaging systems. In other words, if you go into your weather app, you know how you can pull up the cloud layer on your weather app? They never show up.
Well, I think sometimes they are starting to show up whenever you see those supposed anomalies and everything on a radar that will look like it'll give that feathered appearance. So I don't think that they're totally being hidden, depending on how much is actually up there, that they're seeding in an area. And they always seem to, when Texas had that outbreak of tornadoes and really terrible weather recently, there were a lot of radar anomalies there. There were also a lot of radar anomalies whenever things were going through the southern portion of the Midwest lately as well. They were being picked up on radar and people were posting them.
So those radar anomalies, are those the ones where it kind of looks like there's a straight line across the radar image, like a very intense, beam or segment across the radar image, as opposed to a blob, like you would
No, they kind of look like if you looked up and you saw post cloud seeding, and you see how you have the feathery kind of looking clouds in the sky as it starts to dissipate. That's what it looks like on a radar. So
this is a wave-generated cloud, apparently. The cloud that we're looking at now it looks like one of these very, very finely, symmetrical row after row after row of perfectly sized clouds that just sort of quilt the sky. in a very parallel and uniform fashion. This is the kind of thing that would be like associated with, I guess, an ionized chemtrail, composed of maybe barium, silver oxide, titanium dioxide, some of these vicious chemicals that are in the sky. What do you know about some of these really disgusting chemicals? I know you were touching on aluminum earlier, but what are they using, and how do these things affect people? How do these chemicals affect humans, Jazz?
Well, they're extremely toxic. So from the New Jersey Department of Health, they actually have an OSHA like printout for hazardous substance fact sheet for titanium dioxide, which is one of the known chemicals that they do. In fact, have in these up in the atmosphere. That they're spraying us with. And their first aid that they list when it comes to titanium dioxide is with eye contact, immediately flush with large amounts of water for at least 15 minutes, lifting upper and lower lids, remove contact lenses while rinsing, skin contact, remove contaminated clothing and wash contaminated skin with soap and water. If you inhale it, and here, like, you think about, how many, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but, they want to blame things on, like allergies or, somebody has long COVID and all this stuff. I'm not so sure. COVID. Exactly. I'm not so sure that some of this crap that we're not inhaling and everything gives us these kind of naggy, dry, prolonged kind of chronic coughs and everything like that. With titanium dioxide inhalation, it specifically says on this sheet, remove the person from exposure, begin rescue breathing using universal precautions. If breathing has stopped and CPR, if heart action has stopped, transfer promptly to a medical facility. So that's just titanium.
All right, we lost Jazz there for a second. Let's see if we can get her back on the mainstream. And I'm going to jump back into commander mode. She was talking about the poisonous nature of titanium dioxide. This isn't the only carcinogen, though, that is used in this kind of cloud seeding and stuff. They're also, there's Jazz, she's back now. There's also, in addition to titanium dioxide, there's aluminum, and there's, what was the other one that I was alluding to? Silver iodide, and barium, too, all terribly harmful for people. You were, before the show, we were talking about silver iodide a little bit, and it was like, apparently they say it's not toxic to humans, and then proceed to list out all the terrible shit that it does to humans if they encounter it.
So let me see here.
All of these clouds have, these man-made clouds have terrible stuff in them, so it's not surprising that they came up with a patent to remove these things from the sky.
Did they really do that, though? So silver iodide, exposure to large amounts of silver iodide can cause various symptoms, including nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, skin irritation, eye irritation, respiratory problems, and headache. We also know
so
that
it's not toxic, but it does all of that.
That's a neurotoxin. All of this stuff has neurotoxicity and affects your central nervous system, and they won't come out and say that because they want to sugarcoat it. And you have to literally go look at the patent, look what's in the information, and then go in and then do the medical research side of it to find out what kind of effects these chemicals actually have on our body. So with barium, and we all know, people look at it as something that is, well, we use it in medical procedures. You have imaging studies done, and that they think of it as rather benign. But acute exposure at high levels can cause gastrointestinal effects, which we know anybody who has ever done barium to prepare for a colonoscopy would know exactly what that effect is.
Yeah, or for really any lower GI imaging,
yeah,
you have to consume it, and it's pretty
it's
gross.
awful.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. However, it can also cause cardiac dysrhythmias, abnormal blood pressure, muscle weakness, and paralysis. There is no antidote for barium. The only treatment that they have consists of regulating your serum potassium levels and respiratory and cardiovascular support. So if you became had been exposed enough to barium, those are the effects that you're going to have. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Essentially,
You've had too much barium exposure, Jazz.
I had too much something today. So, but yeah, when you're only being able to control somebody's potassium level and putting them on respiratory and cardiovascular support, essentially, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it and waiting for like any kind of drug, any kind of neurotoxin,
it's shooting in the
anything
dark.
like that. Well,
potassium modification is like sugar modification. It's very the effects are going to vary greatly from one individual to the next, and they don't necessarily know what they're going to get. They just know that sometimes if people are having a high blood pressure reaction, for example, to barium poisoning, that an increase in blood-borne potassium is going to relax their blood pressure, but they don't necessarily know why or how much to give or any of that stuff.
Well, you can't give too much potassium because you're going to stop somebody's heart. Like, there's a delicate balance between sodium and potassium in the body. So, too much potassium is going to first throw somebody into an arrhythmia. So, the barium is causing an arrhythmia, but yet you're going to potassium is very, very tricky to control, and it's a lot of blood draws and everything to make sure that somebody's serum levels don't get too high or too low.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all of this stuff is just terrible for you. Aluminum poisoning. We know that's in the atmosphere in this as well. And it can actually disrupt the DNA. It penetrates the DNA and inhibits the protein protease. So we're not talking about just a little bit of, okay, I'm going to take some potassium so I feel better here.
Yeah, we're not talking about a black eye. We're talking about serious core damage to one's very being.
Right. These things can inherently damage the structure of your DNA. And I believe that is part of the end game when it comes to some of this weather modification. Call me doom and gloom, but that's just me.
Well, the one thing that a lot of these, I'll borrow the word theories, even though I think some of what we're talking about here is theoretical and some of it is definitely proven. But a lot of what these theories have in common, the common thread, is that they all seem, if you boil them down to their apparent intentions, you get harm to human reproduction. You get shrinking population. You get a human populace that can't replace itself at rates before seen. In other words, how did we get to 6.5 or 7 billion people in the world? Everything that's going on now, from poison in the air to poison in the food to redefining the essence of human sexuality and pop culture, I mean, any and all of these things seem to be driven around producing less humans. Or creating a culture where fewer humans can be produced.
Exactly.
And there seems to be a viable job market for people who wish to participate in the depopulation agenda. For instance, Jazz, can you see my screen share?
No, I cannot.
I've got Weather Modification Incorporated. Pull up. Let me share this with you so you can take a peek at it. And there we go. There we go. Hopefully you can see it now. But this company is called Weather Modification Incorporated. And in case you were, well, these patents certainly exist, but nobody has brought them to market. Well, that's not true.
No, it's not.
This is a company who is based in Fargo, North Dakota, they specialize in outfitting common aircraft with aerosolizing, cloud seeding, weather radar, atmospheric assessment, VIP transportation, you name it. So check this out, weathermodification.com. They've got an old-fashioned PHP website, but they're still in business. And apparently they own quite a number of aircraft that are outfitted to do, and you can see there's a picture of it right here in their header. The circle around the back of this wing has all of the emitters, or places where I'm assuming aerosols are coming out of this relatively small aircraft. This is nothing compared to the big DC-9s and stuff like that people have filmed outside of their Delta Airlines windows there. Let me see if I can pull that one up.
I was going to say, like, if you have, I know I shared it to you pre-show, and it's going to have the header devices or methods for influencing weather conditions, and it's a patent sitemap. And it'll say patent 01 Golf 15.
Yeah, why don't you segue on that for a minute? Go into it and I'll dig it up.
Okay. I mean, essentially it goes back to, let's see, it predates down to February of 1976.
What was the name of that patent again, Jess?
This is it's a link that I sent you. It has multiple patents listed in it. Devices or methods for influencing weather conditions. So if anybody wants to look up the site,
got it.
It starts in February of 76, a vortex ring generator. I'll just read some of them off, just to let you know, kind of what's some of the more interesting ones that I found on here. Let's see here. In 3 of 1982, we've got a patent, and I'm not going to read these patent numbers off, but device for causing precipitation.
Yep. 1982.
Yeah. They were toying around with methods and apparatus for reducing destructive effects of tornadoes in 1982 as well. And method of and means for weather modification, 9/11 of 9/11 of 1984. Go figure.
Yep.
George Orwell. And I mean, it just.
Well, that one is expired now, Jazz, so you can steal the idea.
Influencing meteorological phenomenon. Apparatus for provoking precipitation. So that's in 1988. So if they wanted to flood an area, they could do that. We've got spray drying of microorganisms having ice nucleating activity in 1989.
So, this dovetails right into the patent systems and methods for rain cloud initiation from Frederick William McDougall of San Diego, which was granted in 2021, which recommends that boats on the Great Lakes be equipped with silver iodide emitters where they can spray silver iodide aerosols with the intention of curing drought. But silver iodide is incredibly toxic to fish and microorganisms. So why in the world would you put it on a boat? And furthermore, why in the world, if you were trying to cure a drought near the Great Lakes, wouldn't you just distribute the water from the Great Lakes to the drought? I mean, never mind the Great
Yeah.
Lakes are already the largest freshwater system in the entire world. There's no need for poisonous technology here. Most of the country's breadbasket is within 500 miles of the Great Lakes. So if somebody can pipe oil from Scandinavia and Russia all the way to Germany, then certainly you can pipe water from the Great Lakes down to Kansas, and it's basically an unlimited supply. And there's already a pipeline that goes from the Great Lakes all the way to Kansas. It's called the Mississippi River. So why does this patent even need to exist?
Exactly.
That seems to be the head scratcher with a lot of these. Even going back, there was this guy named Bernard Vonnegut. Have you heard of Bernard Vonnegut?
No.
He was another mad scientist that was, he invented something in the 1930s called the silver iodide flare, which apparently it was...
Is this the pyrotechnic?
Yeah, this is a
cloud
guy
seeding?
who, yes, you could shoot this flare
Yes,
loaded with
yes, I
silver
read about
iodide
that.
explosives, and it would cause a small cloud that would rain. So this technology has been around for almost 100 years that we know of.
Right.
And there was another Bernard Eastland, filing from Los Angeles in 1987. He got patent 4686605. Method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere and or magnetosphere, which was sealed under an official government secrecy order. So to everybody who thinks that the Patent and Trademark Office is somehow this benevolent organization that is totally working in your interests, well, that's horseshit, because this is a very important weaponized weather control patent. Just like G.I. Joe, that was ordered secret by that same office that admitted it into consideration.
Well, since we're going to go on the military route here, I'm going to pull up. I can get it to my screen to pull up here. It's U.S. Patent 7234897 Bravo 2, and this is actually a military patent that we can find right online. Area Earthquake Defense System. And it goes on to basically explain during a military operation that's being conducted, how they place these fixtures, essentially, and then they form their own protective barriers around them and everything. But they are able to create earthquakes. And it makes you kind of go back and look at things that were happening, like you look politically what's going on when you start to see like earthquakes happen in these certain areas, or like an earthquake offshore that starts to cause a typhoon. A tsunami.
Yeah, tsunami. They probably can cause typhoons too, though.
But, oh no, they can definitely. I'm trying to find that patent, actually, as you've been speaking, because I did find one that had
It's a good point that you bring up, though, about generating a tsunami. Basically, all you have to do is create a tremendous amount of force in the sea, and you're going to generate a wave, much the same way that we see these radio waves affecting ionized clouds, except the wave in the sea travels much, much slower because it's a wave traveling through aqueous matter. So an explosion underwater, for instance, maybe an earthquake, maybe a bomb, maybe a nuclear bomb, could certainly wipe out the seaboard of an island or something like that.
That's actually exactly what our U.S. military did several years ago to trigger a major earthquake in China that caused a catastrophic tsunami that was due to offshore an offshore nuke, and it then did exactly what they wanted it to. But on this area earthquake defense system, they say it's not been applied to the earthquake defense, although protection has been the subject of numerous inventions.
It's curiously worded, too, earthquake
Right.
defense. I mean, if you hear that, you think, oh, it's protection against an earthquake. It's an earthquake weapon.
It is a weapon. No, it's definitely a weapon. The standard doctrine is to weaponize the targets themselves so they can provide for their own individual defense and then do everything possible to prevent the enemy from reaching them in strengths beyond what they can withstand. It says right there. What does that say? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read that and to know that it's a weapon that we're using to protect and to try to influence whoever we are standing up against at that time and trying to fight.
I hear you. I think now would be a good time to check in with our chatters. The live chat has been very, very vibrant this evening.
I've seen that. I've seen a couple comments that were very interesting.
While you're getting some of those chats pulled up, Jazz, I'm going to let you sift through the chats today. But while you're pulling those up and getting prepped for that, I wanted to remind everybody that you can follow the show at rumble.com/conspiracy squad. You can, of course, always find us on Twitter at Join the C Squad and on Instagram, if you're into Instagram, at Join the C Squad. We also we'll go over our individual handles as we sign off later on, but we are going to check out the chat. If you want to subscribe to the audio versions of the show, please do so on Apple Podcasts, Conspiracy Squad, and iHeartRadio. Let's see. And the poll of the week is always available at conspiracysquad.com. And all you have to do to vote is click on Poll of the Week. I'm going to get that poll pulled up because we've had all episode for people to vote. And I'm kind of curious about where we're at. Seems like people want to hear our take on electric vehicles and globalism. That's the number one vote getter at this point with 30%. Sasquatch theories, 26%. Theories about the origins of language and Michael Jackson theories are tied with 5 votes apiece. That poll of the week is designed to figure out what we're going to do for our season 2 finale, which comes up here in about 6 weeks. And then we'll be taking a season break as we get ready for season 3 of Conspiracy Squad, which I hope you'll all be involved with. Now, Jazz, what do we got in that chat window? How's things going on the rumble.com live chat tonight?
A lot of good stuff in here. We've got, and I want to know more on this one. Green Beanie 10th. On a side note, Hurricane Debbie washed up $1 million worth of cocaine on the beach.
I wonder which side of Florida that was on. I mean, there's probably $1 million worth of cocaine just like in downtown Naples right now.
Yeah, so I definitely interested in that.
If you've got a link on that Green Beanie, can you post it or email it to us? Nigel at conspiracysquad.com.
Dean South 8. I see a frequency or harmonic in those clouds.
I wonder which image he was looking at. Was that the rainbow looking one, Dean?
There was a big one that dropped last month where it blew and rained like hell around 9:30. I heard a UFO type sound, low frequency, warble type sound, louder than the trees.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that accompanied some cloud seeding?
That was in response to the frequency and harmonic in the clouds.
I see.
Dirty Delta. I never had allergy issues until after my first deployment to Iraq.
I mean, that's, you do hear that from a lot of Iraq veterans. I think there's a name for it. People who come home with conditions that are apparently post-war conditions from the Iraq War. I forget what it's called. Forgive me. I'm not super close to the matter, but I have heard that from a number of Iraq veterans.
Right. And then, we've just got a lot of shout outs to Dirty Delta, thanking him for his service, and 2 tours in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. We thank him here too.
Yep. Thank you, Dirty Delta. We appreciate you, man.
Yes, absolutely. And
I think PF3 might have been in there a time or two as well.
yeah, PF3. While these kids were digging and clapping hands here. PF3 is Russia careful about letting people through their borders? I think so.
Yeah, they're very careful about it. They're not as careful as China, but they're careful.
Green Beanie 10th. Can we just get over with and shut off the lights? The anticipation is killing me. And it's funny that that came up because I'm going to use that on one of the patents that they would probably like to think does not.
Oh, the one for dimming the sun? The old Bill Gates cloud seeding special?
No, we're going to go with U.S. Patent 7071631 Bravo 2. The electromagnetic pulse device.
Oh, I guess that would be the non-nuclear bomb EMP patent?
Absolutely. The intense electromagnetic pulse of short duration and how a particularly strong EMP can produce widespread outages. And that goes exactly with the comment there of turning out the lights.
Yeah, at some point, like all of this, like there's this knowledge that the knowledge is out there, but then the shit never hits the fan in the way that we think about the destructive potential of these devices and methods. Thank God it doesn't hit the fan. But there does seem to be this sense of when is it all going to happen? I mean, you've got this, you have the same sense from the QAnon community. You have the same sense from the evangelical Christians who have been talking about the pre-tribulation rapture. I just listened to a podcast about that today, and everybody's like, bro, look around. When is this stuff going to happen? So there is a very in-the-moment thing going on now with pop culture. I found another chat that I just have to mention, Jasmine.
Yes.
PF3 said, I saw a great video about MJ's relationship with Trump that changed my mind about MJ big time. I, too, had my mind changed about MJ, PF3, when I found out that MJ was supposed to have been in Tower 1 on September 11th, 2001. And somebody tipped him off at the last minute not to be there. Yet another thread in the 9/11 conspiracy that just blows my mind.
Yep. His story there was that he was up late talking to his mother and didn't wake up in time to be at the towers. But there are numerous pictures of he and Trump together that you can find. They do have a relationship. And I don't want to get too much off the weather mod and everything, but there are definitely several twists of fate that we covered in Trouble in Paradise that you're laughing.
Well, I'm just, my point is, if there's one show on planet Earth that can link weather modification with Michael Jackson, it's this one.
I don't know how, other than pyrotechnics, the poor guy, but...
Well, I mean, listen, if we're going to do it real quick, just Michael Jackson, everybody go listen to the song. They don't care about us.
Yes.
Listen to the song, break the lyrics down, and his demise will make a heck of a lot more sense to you. His daughter said that song is the reason why he was killed, and she believes that he was a result of foul play.
And there are 2 videos. There's one of him in prison, and there's one of him in Brazil. I recommend that you watch the imagery in the prison video because that coupled with the lyrics makes a lot of things kind of tie together whenever it comes to MJ.
So Green Beanie 10th said in the chat, camel spiders are the worst. I don't know what a camel spider is. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit for us, Green Beanie. I will tell you that in the episode about subliminal messages that we did last week, I had images of Joe Camel from the Camel cigarette pack ready to go as a follow-on to what Kat Marks brought us about all of these basically dirty images that are in the Disney movies and stuff. And Joe Camel, basically his nose looks very phallic and his mouth looks also very phallic. And when you say camel spiders, it kind of took me back to last week when we were talking about subliminal messaging a little bit.
I don't know. I just thought of Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
Can't say Kamala without saying...
Camel.
Yes, yes. And it's Kamala, it's Kamala, and I've heard some people down here in the Everglades say Camila.
Well, all I know is that since I uploaded some of those videos on TikTok, I just want to say that the libs just absolutely love me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you what, the impression of Kamala Harris that you deliver is quite good. So
there's
highly recommended.
So much hate.
Yes, I have seen Dirty Delta. Thank you for asking in the chat. I have seen several of the Alien movies. I haven't seen all of them. I've seen the first two for sure, and I think I saw. Oh shoot!
Oh yeah.
What's the
Dean
newer
South,
Prometheus? Yeah, Prometheus.
Dean South, Joan Rivers, foul play. Absolutely, I agree with you there, Dean.
Well, Joan famously proclaimed that Michelle Obama was a dude,
right,
matter of factly,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she was the queen of not holding anything back. So, is this running on YouTube also?
It is. So we got to be careful.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know what? We don't have to be careful. We just trying to miss another strike. Probably. Yeah.
I mean, we have so many key phrases in here and everything. It's just and we've talked about so much. I mean, now that we're on to Michael's dick, I mean, it's all over now. So
Dirty Delta says a camel spider looks like a face hugger without a tail. Okay. No, thank you. No, thank you to that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like them spiders to begin with, but if I saw something like that coming at me, I don't know. I would really wish that there were a man around that could take care of that for me.
Well, I mean, once the spider's on your face and it's doing the face hugging thing, that just means you're going to go from face hugger to chest burster within the matter of a day or two, right?
Oh, or you'd be asleep and you'd have those nasty things where you see the spider eggs that start to hatch in people and they start coming out of different orifices.
I think I was 4 or 5 perhaps when, maybe younger even, when Alien came out. Good Lord, that is, to me, I mean, having seen it as a child, that is probably the scariest movie I can remember seeing. But there is one thing even scarier than that, and that is going over on time for the 4th week in a row. And I've been advised by Jasmine Starr that we cannot allow this to happen tonight because we've done a good job keeping the show on the rails and on schedule. So, Jazz, how does everybody get a hold of you, and how do they follow you out there on the interwebs?
Yes, you can find me mostly on X at Jasmine Star 239. It's JAZMINESTARR 239. And then I have Starlight Readings on Instagram, STARR_light_readings. I really am not on there very much. So yeah, you're better off trying to reach me on X. And if you want to show me some love instead of some liberal hate, you can find me on TikTok now at Jasmine Star 239.
Jasmine Star 239 on TikTok with a gulp. I saw that gulp after you said TikTok.
Well, I did do a little thing on the Steven Vandeveld with the Olympics. I know everybody was focused on the boxer, but I did do a little a segment on him, if anybody was unfamiliar with him, while people were distracted by, a male beating the crap out of women. Steven Vandeveld is a 2016 convicted child rapist of a British girl on 3 counts of rape, and he is serving on the Dutch volleyball Olympic team right now. So I do have a video up on there about that, but the rest of them are my bad Kamala parodies to her quotes. And,
so I will not be able to follow you on TikTok because, as you know, I do not have a TikTok and probably not going to get a TikTok. However, you can find me, Nigel Kent, at NigelKent239 on Twitter, X. And if you'd like, you can definitely follow the show. Join the C Squad. And make sure you get on that poll of the week. Go to conspiracysquad.com and click poll of the week. We want to know what you would like us to cover. We're going to do a very extra special season finale here in about 6 weeks. And then we're going to take a little break and come back for season 3. So nobody worry about that. In the meantime, we do have some really cool subjects coming up to finish off the season here. We got 5 episodes to go before the final episode. And big shout out to our friend Kat Marks, who's normally on the panel. She wasn't available today, but she was on the chat. Thank you, Kat, for that. And Gabby, rest up and get better. And of course, Jasmine Star, there's only one thing left to say, and what is that?